Captain Elena Vasquez sat in her command chair aboard the UES Prometheus, watching the stars through the main screen. Space was quiet today, which was exactly how she liked it. Her ship was on patrol duty in the outer rim, far from Earth and the busy trade routes. Out here, nothing much happened. The bridge crew worked at their stations with practiced ease. Lieutenant Marcus Torres monitored communications from his post. Commander Sarah Blake kept watch on the tactical systems. Everything was normal and peaceful. Then the alarm sounded. "Captain, I'm getting a distress signal," Torres called out, his fingers dancing over his control panel. "It's coming from the Kepler 442 system." Vasquez leaned forward in her chair. "Put it through." The speakers crackled with static. Then a voice came through, high and musical, speaking in the universal trade language, but the voice was filled with terror. "This is choral singer Naya of the Zelani people. We need help. Please, someone help us. Unknown ships attacked our world 3 days ago. They are killing our children. They are taking our people. We don't know how to fight them. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help now." The message repeated twice more, then cut to static. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the Zelani. They were peaceful water dwellers who lived on a beautiful ocean world. They had never fought a war in their entire history. They were diplomats and artists, not soldiers. "Where's the nearest council fleet?" Vasquez asked. Blake checked her screens. "The closest response team is 3 weeks away, Captain. They're dealing with some trade dispute in the Vega system." 3 weeks. Vasquez felt her stomach tighten. If someone was attacking the Zelani, 3 weeks might as well be 3 years. "Captain," Torres spoke up again, "I'm getting more transmissions. They're automated distress beacons from Zelani orbital stations. The signals are getting weaker." Vasquez stood up and walked to the main screen. The Kepler 442 system was only 2 days away at maximum speed. The Prometheus was a small ship, but it was fast and well-armed. She had 50 good people under her command. "Open a channel to Earth Command," she ordered. Torres nodded. "Channel open, Captain. Earth Command, this is Captain Vasquez aboard the Prometheus. We have received a distress call from the Zelani homeworld. Request permission to investigate." The reply came back within minutes. Admiral Chen's voice was clear and firm. "Negative, Prometheus. You are to maintain your patrol route. The Galactic Council will handle the situation. We are still new members, Captain. We don't want to step on any toes." Vasquez closed her eyes for a moment. She understood the Admiral's position. Humans had only joined the Galactic Council 5 years ago. They were still proving themselves as a civilized species. Many of the older races still saw humans as violent primitives from a dangerous world. But the Zelani were dying. "Understood, Earth Command." Prometheus out, she turned to her crew. They were all looking at her, waiting. These were good people. They had signed up to protect others, not to follow politics. Commander Blake stepped closer. "Captain, the Zelani don't have weapons. They don't even have a real military. If someone is attacking them—" "I know," Vasquez said quietly. She had read the Zelani cultural files. They were completely peaceful. Their entire society was built around art, music, and harmony with their ocean world. They had never needed to learn how to fight. Torres spoke up from his station. "Captain, I'm still monitoring their frequencies. The attacks are getting worse. I can hear the panic in their voices." Vasquez walked back to her command chair but didn't sit down. She thought about her orders. She thought about her duty to Earth Command. Then she thought about families of peaceful aliens being slaughtered while help was 3 weeks away. "Torres, what's our estimated travel time to Kepler 442 at maximum speed?" 47 hours, Captain." "Blake, what's our weapon status?" "All systems ready, Captain. Full missile load, charged particle beams online." "Engineering, what's our condition?" From the engine room, Chief Petty Officer Kim's voice came through the comm. "Ship is running perfect, Captain. Ready for whatever you need." Vasquez looked around the bridge one more time. Her crew watched her with trust in their eyes. They would follow her anywhere, she knew. Even if it meant disobeying direct orders, she made her decision. "Torres, plot a course for the Kepler 442 system." "Maximum speed." "Aye, Captain." "Blake, I want all weapon systems checked and double-checked. Run diagnostics on everything." "Yes, ma'am." "All hands, this is the captain." Her voice carried throughout the ship. "We have received a distress call from innocent people under attack. Earth Command has ordered us not to respond. The Council fleet is 3 weeks away. By the time help arrives, there may be no one left to save." She paused, letting that sink in. I am ordering this ship to respond to the distress call. This means we are disobeying direct orders. Anyone who objects can file a formal complaint when we return to Earth. But right now people are dying and we can help them. That's what we signed up for. Silence filled the comm channel for a moment. Then Chief Kim's voice came through loud and clear. Captain, this is engineering. Engines are ready. Let's go save some lives. One by one, every department reported ready. No one objected. No one complained. They were all volunteers, and they all remembered why they had joined the space service. Engage, Vasquez ordered. The Prometheus turned toward the Kepler 442 system and accelerated to maximum speed. Stars stretched into lines as they entered hyperspace. Torres kept monitoring the Zilani transmissions during the journey. The messages were getting weaker and more desperate. Entire cities had gone silent. The attacks were spreading across their world like a plague. Captain, Torres said on the second day of their journey, I'm picking up something else. The attackers are broadcasting on multiple frequencies. It's not like any language I've heard before. What kind of transmissions? It's hard to describe. They sound almost hungry, like they're enjoying what they're doing to the Zilani. Blake ran the transmissions through the ship's computer. Captain, the analysis suggests these aren't communications. They're more like feeding calls, as if the attackers are coordinating some kind of harvest. The word harvest sent chills through everyone on the bridge. What kind of species would harvest other intelligent beings? ETA to Kepler 442? Vasquez asked. 6 hours, Captain. All hands prepare for combat. This is not a drill. We're going into a situation with unknown hostile forces. Check your gear, check your stations, and check on your shipmates. Whatever we find out there, we face it together. As the Prometheus raced through hyperspace toward the Zilani homeworld, Captain Vasquez stared at the stars and wondered what they would find. She had disobeyed orders to save innocent lives. Now she could only hope they weren't already too late. The countdown to normal space continued. 5 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours. Whatever was waiting for them at Kepler 442, the crew of the Prometheus would face it head-on. They were humans, after all, and humans didn't abandon people in need. The Prometheus dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Captain Vasquez expected to see the beautiful blue-green world of the Zilani, famous throughout the galaxy for its crystal-clear oceans and floating cities. Instead, she saw a nightmare. My God, Commander Blake whispered from her tactical station. The Zilani homeworld was covered in a web of dark, pulsing lines. Strange organic ships hung in orbit like massive insects around a dying animal. These weren't metal ships like humans built. They were alive, with surfaces that rippled and moved like skin. Captain, I'm reading 23 large vessels in orbit, Blake reported, her voice tight with shock. They're not like anything in our database. They appear to be biological in nature. Lieutenant Torres bent over his communications console. I'm picking up Zilani transmissions from the surface, but they're very weak. The orbital stations are completely silent. Through the main screen, they could see the remains of the Zilani space facilities. Beautiful structures that had once looked like coral reefs made of metal and crystal were now broken and dark. Some had been completely consumed by the same dark material that covered parts of the planet. Take us closer, but keep us hidden, Vasquez ordered. Use the asteroid field for cover. The Prometheus moved carefully through the outer system, staying behind chunks of rock and ice. As they got closer, the true horror became clear. The organic ships were feeding on the planet below. Long tubes stretched down from the ships to the surface, pulsing with some kind of dark liquid. Other smaller craft moved between the surface and the large ships, carrying cargo containers that seemed to move on their own. Captain, Torres called out, his voice shaking. I'm getting a clearer picture of what's happening down there. The Zilani cities? They're not destroyed. They're trapped. The main screen zoomed in on the planet's surface. Where once beautiful floating cities had dotted the ocean, now there were massive organic domes. The cities were still there, but they were covered in some kind of living shell. They're keeping them alive, Blake said, horror in her voice. The Zilani are still alive inside those things. Dr. Martinez, the ship's science officer, ran scans from her station. Captain, I'm reading high levels of bioelectric activity from those domes. The Zilani are definitely alive, but the readings suggest extreme stress. Their neural activity is off the charts, and what do you mean? Vasquez asked, though she was afraid she already knew. They're terrified, Captain. Whatever is happening to them in there, they're in constant fear. Torres suddenly straightened at his station. "Captain, I'm intercepting communications from the alien ships. I think I can translate some of it." "Put it through." Strange sounds filled the bridge. They were like voices, but wet and hungry. The universal translator worked to make sense of the alien language. Slowly, words began to form. Fear, harvest proceeding. Well, subjects maintaining proper terror. Levels, psychic energy flow at maximum. Younger. Specimens provide better essence, adults. Losing potency after extended extraction. Prepare. The breeding chambers, we need fresh subjects for the next feeding cycle. Bridge fell silent as the meaning sank in. These creatures weren't just killing the Zilani. They were farming them, using them like livestock, keeping them alive and afraid to harvest something from their terror. "Captain," Dr. Martinez said quietly, "I need to run more scans, but I think these beings feed on fear itself. They're psychic parasites." Commander Blake checked her weapon systems. 1 ship against 23 of those things. "Captain, we'd need a miracle to even scratch them." But Torres was still working at his communication station. "Captain, there's more. I'm picking up long-range transmissions from the alien fleet. They're not just staying here. This is a temporary stop." "What do you mean?" Torres turned to face her, his face pale. "They're planning their next targets. And Captain, Earth is on the list, along with every major world in the Galactic Council." The screen showed a star map that the aliens were transmitting. Red markers indicated planets to be harvested. Earth glowed bright red at the center of the map. Around it, dozens of other worlds were marked: Centauri Prime, New Tokyo, the Vegan trade worlds, even the Council headquarters at Alpha Centauri. "They see the galaxy as a feeding ground," Dr. Martinez said, "and they're moving systematically through it, harvesting entire civilizations." Vasquez studied the alien fleet movements on screen. The creatures had been doing this for a long time. They moved with the precision of experienced hunters. The Zilani were just the latest in a long line of victims. "Why Earth?" Blake asked. "We're new to the galaxy. We haven't done anything to them." Torres translated more alien communications. The answer chilled everyone on the bridge. "They're afraid of us," he said. "The aliens are calling Earth the prime threat. They think humans are the most dangerous species they've encountered." "Dangerous?" "We're not dangerous," Dr. Martinez protested. "We're peaceful explorers." But Captain Vasquez understood. She had read the reports from human first contact with other species. Most aliens were shocked by human history. The wars. The violence. The fact that humans had survived on a world that tried to kill them every day. Earth was a death world compared to most planets in the galaxy. "They see us as competition," Vasquez realized. Other predators in their territory. More alien transmissions came through. The translator worked to make sense of the complex language. Gradually, a plan emerged. The aliens called themselves the Devourers. They had consumed hundreds of worlds across thousands of years. But now they faced something new, a species that might actually fight back effectively. Their solution was simple: destroy the humans first, before they could spread further into the galaxy. The Zilani were just practice, a way to build their strength before attacking Earth. "Captain," Blake said urgently, "we need to warn Earth Command. If these things are planning to attack, how long do we have?" Vasquez asked Torres. Torres listened to more transmissions. Based on their communications, they'll finish harvesting the Zilani in about a week. Then they'll move toward the inner systems. Earth is their primary target, but they plan to hit the outer colonies first to build their strength. Vasquez looked at her crew. Good people, all of them. They had volunteered to explore space to make contact with alien life. None of them had signed up to face monsters that fed on fear and harvested entire civilizations. But they were here now, and they were the only ones who knew what was coming. "Torres, send a priority message to Earth Command. Full encryption. Tell them everything we've seen." "Aye, Captain." "Blake, start analyzing those alien ships. I want to know their weaknesses." "Captain, with respect, we can't fight them. Not alone." Vasquez looked at the screen showing the trapped Zilani cities. Innocent people were suffering down there, being kept alive only to feed the aliens' hunger for fear. And soon the same fate would come to Earth. "Maybe not," she said quietly, "but we can gather intelligence. And maybe we can help the Zilani." "Help them how?" Vasquez didn't answer immediately. She was thinking about what Torres had said. The aliens were afraid of humans. They saw Earth as a threat, Maybe there was a reason for that. I don't know yet, she said finally, but we're going to find out. Admiral Chen stood in the emergency command center deep beneath Earth Command headquarters. Around him, screens showed star maps, fleet positions, and the horrifying data transmitted by Captain Vasquez from the Zilani homeworld. Play the message again, he ordered. The main screen flickered to life. Captain Vasquez appeared, her face grim. Behind her, the bridge of the Prometheus showed signs of battle damage. Earth Command, this is Captain Vasquez. We have confirmed the situation at Kepler 442. The Zilani homeworld is under attack by hostile aliens calling themselves Devourers. These beings feed on fear and terror. They harvest entire civilizations, keeping populations alive only to farm their psychic energy. The image shifted to show the alien fleet surrounding the Zilani world. The organic ships pulsed with dark energy, their feeding tubes extending down to the planet's surface. The Devourers have been operating for thousands of years, Vasquez continued. They have consumed hundreds of worlds. But Earth is their next primary target. They consider humans the greatest threat to their operations and plan to eliminate us before we can spread further into the galaxy. Admiral Chen paused the message and looked around the room. General Morrison sat at the strategy table, his face pale. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's leading expert on alien biology, studied the data on her tablet. Defense Minister Sarah Webb looked up from her own screens. How long do we have? Morrison asked. Based on Captain Vasquez's intelligence, approximately 2 weeks before they finish with the Zilani and begin moving toward our outer colonies, Chen replied. And the Galactic Council? Still mobilizing their peacekeeping force. They estimate another 2 weeks before they can respond with a proper fleet. Dr. Tanaka looked up from her analysis. Admiral, I've studied the biological data from the Prometheus. These Devourers aren't just predators. They're a hive mind that has evolved specifically to feed on the terror of sentient beings. They've perfected the art of keeping entire populations alive in a state of constant fear. Can they be reasoned with? Webb asked. No. Their entire existence depends on the suffering of others. There is no negotiation possible with a species that sees all other life as food. General Morrison spread his hands on the table. Then we evacuate. We move the core populations to hidden colonies, scatter our people across the galaxy, wait for the Council to handle this. General, Dr. Tanaka said quietly, I don't think you understand. The Devourers don't just kill civilizations. They corrupt them. Any survivors become part of their feeding network. They use fear and horror to control populations across multiple worlds. There is no hiding from them. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the implications. Humanity faced extinction or something worse than extinction. Admiral Chen activated the communication system. Get me President Martinez. Within minutes, the president appeared on screen from the executive bunker in Geneva. Admiral, I've seen the reports. What are our options? Limited, Madam President. We can try to evacuate key populations and hope the Council can stop these things. We can try to defend Earth with our current fleet and likely fail, or what, Admiral? Chen took a deep breath. We deploy everything we have. Every ship, every weapon, every person who can fight. We gather the largest fleet in human history, and we hit them before they can build their strength on more victims. President Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Admiral, you're talking about sending our entire military against an enemy that has conquered hundreds of worlds. That's not a battle plan. That's suicide, General Morrison leaned forward. Madam President, with respect, Admiral Chen is right. These things see us as the primary threat to their operations. They're not going to leave us alone no matter what we do. We can die running or we can die fighting. There's a third option, Dr. Tanaka interjected. Maybe we don't die at all. Everyone turned to look at her. She activated her own display, showing biological analysis data. I've been studying everything Captain Vasquez sent us about the Devourers. They've been operating for thousands of years, conquering peaceful civilizations that have never known real war. But humans are different. How so? Chen asked. We evolved on a death world. For millions of years, everything on Earth tried to kill us. Ice ages, predators, diseases, natural disasters. We survived by becoming the most adaptable, most resilient, most aggressive species on our planet. She changed the display to show human military history. Every other species the Devourers have faced has been peaceful. When confronted with overwhelming horror, they break. They become paralyzed with fear, which is exactly what the Devourers want. But humans respond to horror differently. We get angry, Morrison said, understanding. More than that, we get determined. When humans face something that wants to destroy us, we don't just fight back. We fight until the threat is completely eliminated. We have a saying, the only good enemy is a dead enemy. President Martinez studied the data. Doctor, you're suggesting that our violent nature is actually an advantage here? I'm suggesting that the Devourers made a mistake. They see us as dangerous, which is why they want to eliminate us first. But they don't understand how dangerous we really are. They expect us to break like every other species they've faced. Instead, they're going to face something they've never encountered before. What's that? Chen asked. A species that doesn't know how to give up. The president was quiet for several minutes, considering the options. Around the world, similar discussions were happening in every major capital. The leaders of humanity faced the greatest threat in their species' history. Finally, she spoke. Admiral Chen, I am authorizing Operation Omega-7. Deploy the Armada. Within hours, the mobilization began. Every human warship in space received the same message. Return to Earth immediately. Corporate security fleets abandoned their trade routes. Colonial defense forces left their posts. Even converted cargo ships and mining vessels were fitted with whatever weapons could be found. The message went out on every human communication channel. This is Earth command to all human vessels. We face an enemy that has destroyed hundreds of worlds. They feed on fear and terror. They have marked Earth for death. Every ship, every weapon, every soul who can fight is needed. Come home. Help us save our world and every innocent life in the galaxy. The response was immediate. From the Outer Rim colonies, mining ships began the long journey home with plasma cutters converted to weapons. Corporate freighters dumped their cargo to make room for missiles. Even civilian ships volunteered to carry supplies and personnel. But the most important response came from the military. Every battleship, every cruiser, every destroyer, every fighter squadron began converging on Earth. The largest fleet in human history was assembling. Admiral Chen stood in the command center, watching the fleet positions on his screens. Ships were arriving every hour, forming up in Earth orbit. Soon they would have nearly 250 vessels of various sizes. Admiral, General Morrison said, the Council is asking what we're doing. They want to know why we're mobilizing our entire fleet. Tell them we're going to save the Zilani, Chen replied. And after that? Chen looked at the star map showing the Devourer positions. The enemy was still feeding on the Zilani world, growing stronger with every passing day. Soon they would move toward human space, bringing horror and death to billions of innocent people. After that, he said quietly, we're going to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth. The final preparations began. Every weapon was checked, every system tested. Soldiers said goodbye to their families. Captains studied battle plans. Engineers worked around the clock to fit more weapons onto every available ship. In 3 days, the human armada would depart for the Zilani homeworld. They would face an enemy that had never been defeated, armed with weapons that had never been tested against such foes. But they would not face them alone. They carried with them the hopes of every human who had ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of peace among the worlds. The space around the Zilani homeworld had been quiet for 6 days. The Devourers continued their feeding operations, their organic ships pulsing with dark energy as they harvested terror from the trapped population below. The hive mind was pleased with the quality of fear they were extracting. The Zilani were perfect victims, peaceful, gentle, completely helpless. Then the humans arrived. 237 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. The fleet spread across space like a metal constellation, ranging from massive battleships to small fighters launched from converted cargo vessels. At the center, the flagship Terra's Wrath led the formation. The Devourer hive mind reacted with what could only be described as amusement. These young creatures from the death world had actually come to fight. How entertaining. They would make excellent subjects for fear extraction once they realized the hopelessness of their situation. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of Terra's Wrath, looking at the alien fleet through the main screen. The organic ships hung in space like massive parasites, their feeding tubes extending down to the planet's surface. The sight filled him with cold fury. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Today we face an enemy that feeds on fear and innocence. They have marked our world for death. They have tortured peaceful beings for their own pleasure. We are here to show them what happens when monsters threaten the innocent. Throughout the fleet, captains listened to their admiral's words. On the bridge of the destroyer Earth's Fury, Captain Williams checked her weapon systems. On the converted mining ship Rockbreaker, Captain Santos prepared his improvised missile launchers. Every ship, every crew, every human in the fleet prepared for battle. Remember, Chen continued, we don't fight for territory or glory. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. No mercy for those who prey on the weak. The Devourers responded to the human arrival by launching their own ships, smaller organic vessels detached from the main fleet, writhing through space like living missiles. These were hunter-killers, designed to spread terror through enemy formations before the main feeding began. The first attack came as the Devourer ships tried their standard fear tactics. They broadcast psychic screams across all frequencies, sounds designed to paralyze their victims with terror. The technique had worked on every species they had ever encountered. It didn't work on humans. All ships ignore the noise, Admiral Chen ordered calmly. Focus on your targets. The human response was immediate and devastating. Nuclear missiles launched from dozens of ships, their atomic fire lighting up space like miniature suns. The Devourers had evolved defenses against energy weapons, but they had never faced primitive nuclear explosives before. The first wave of organic ships simply vaporized. On the bridge of Terra's Wrath, Commander Jackson monitored the battle. Admiral, the enemy ships appear vulnerable to nuclear weapons. Their biological armor can't handle atomic fire. Good. All ships continue nuclear bombardment. Target the feeding ships first. The human fleet moved with coordinated precision. Battleships launched volleys of nuclear-tipped missiles while smaller ships used their speed to attack from multiple angles. The Devourers tried to adapt, but they faced something they had never encountered before. An enemy that used weapons of mass destruction as standard tactics. Captain Vasquez, now commanding a squadron of destroyers, led an attack run against one of the larger organic ships. All ships follow my lead. Hit them with everything. Her ships dove toward the enemy vessel, firing nuclear missiles and particle beams. The organic ship writhed and pulsed, trying to bring its own weapons to bear. But human tactics were too aggressive, too fast. The enemy ship exploded in a burst of biological matter and dark energy. But the Devourers had their own tricks. As the human fleet pressed their attack, the aliens tried their most effective weapon, psychological warfare. They began broadcasting images directly into human minds, visions of Earth burning, of human children screaming in terror, of families being consumed by darkness. The tactic had broken entire civilizations before. It barely slowed the humans down. All ships maintain focus, Admiral Chen ordered. Don't let them get in your heads. Remember what we're fighting for. Commander Blake aboard the rebuilt Prometheus coordinated boarding operations. Human Marines in sealed armor used cutting tools and flamethrowers to carve through the organic hulls of disabled enemy ships. What they found inside horrified and enraged them. The Devourer ships were alive, their corridors pulsing with veins and neural networks. Worse, they found storage chambers filled with the psychic essence of previous victims, the trapped fear and pain of entire civilizations. Admiral, Blake reported, these things aren't just ships. They're mobile prisons. They're carrying the suffering of thousands of species inside them. Then burn them out, Chen replied coldly. All of them. The boarding teams went to work with systematic efficiency. They located the neural centers of each ship and destroyed them with fire and explosives. As each hive node died, the Devourers felt something they had never experienced before. True fear. The battle raged for hours. Human ships rammed enemy vessels when their weapons ran dry. Fighter pilots ejected from damaged craft only to be picked up by other ships and sent back into battle immediately. The humans fought with a cold, methodical brutality that shocked even themselves. Lieutenant Torres, monitoring enemy communications, made a crucial discovery. Admiral, the Devourers are trying to retreat. But they can't. They're addicted to the fear they've been harvesting. Without it, they're going into some kind of withdrawal. What do you mean? They need the psychic energy to survive. Cut off from their food source, they're weakening rapidly. Chen saw the opportunity immediately. All ships with psychological warfare capabilities begin broadcasting on all frequencies. Show them what real determination looks like. Human ships began transmitting something the Devourers had never encountered. Cold, implacable resolve. Not anger, not fear, but the absolute certainty that humans would not stop until every last devourer was dead. The effect on the hive mind was devastating. They had fed on fear for so long that they had no defense against pure, determined hatred. Captain Santos aboard the Rockbreaker led the final assault on the planet's surface. Human landing craft descended through the atmosphere toward the trapped Zilani cities. What they found there pushed even hardened soldiers to their limits. The organic domes covering the cities were feeding chambers. Inside, the Zilani floated in liquid horror, kept barely alive while their terror was slowly extracted. Some had been there for weeks, driven nearly mad by constant fear. "Get them out," Santos ordered his troops. "Cut through everything. Save everyone you can." Human soldiers used plasma cutters to slice through the organic walls. They pulled Zilani survivors from the feeding chambers, carrying them to safety while fighting off the smaller devourer creatures that tried to stop them. The sight of the torture chambers triggered something primal in the human rescuers. These were innocents who had been kept alive only to suffer. Children, families, entire communities had been trapped in living nightmares. The final phase of the battle wasn't combat. It was extermination. Human forces systematically destroyed every devourer ship, every organic structure, every trace of the aliens' presence. They didn't just defeat the enemy, they erased them completely. Admiral Chen's final message to the fleeing remnants of the Devourer fleet became legendary throughout the galaxy. "You wanted to feed on fear? Here's something to be afraid of. Humanity remembers. Humanity doesn't forgive. And we know where you're going next." The few Devourer ships that tried to escape found human pursuit squadrons already waiting for them. There would be no survivors, no chance for the species to rebuild, no possibility of future attacks. The Devourers, who had consumed 1,000 worlds over millennia, were completely and utterly destroyed by a species they had underestimated. As the last enemy ship died in nuclear fire, Admiral Chen looked at the rescued Zilani world below. The organic domes were gone, the feeding stations destroyed. Rescue ships were already landing to help the survivors. "All ships, mission accomplished," he announced to the fleet. "The threat has been eliminated. The innocent are safe. Now let's go home." The battle for the Zilani homeworld was over, but the war against the Devourers had only begun. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of Terra's Wrath studying the tactical displays. Intelligence reports showed Devourer fleets scattered across a dozen star systems, all moving toward populated worlds. "Admiral," Commander Jackson reported, "we have confirmation of Devourer forces in the Tau Ceti system. They're attacking the mining colonies there." Chen nodded grimly. The humans had destroyed the main feeding fleet at Kepler 442, but the Devourers operated in separate hives across the galaxy. Each hive was independent, and each had to be hunted down. "Signal the fleet." We moved to Tau Ceti immediately. Dr. Martinez appeared on the communication screen from the medical bay. "Admiral, I need to report on the Zilani survivors. What we found in those feeding chambers. It's worse than we thought." "Explain." The Devourers weren't just extracting fear from the Zilani. They were rewriting their brain chemistry, making them dependent on terror. Some of the survivors are so conditioned that they can't function without constant fear. It may take years of treatment to undo the damage. Chen felt his anger grow colder. The Devourers hadn't just tortured the Zilani, they had tried to permanently break them as a species. "Doctor, do whatever you can for them. Use any resources you need." The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading for the next battle. But as they traveled, reports came in from across the galaxy. Devourer attacks on the Rigel colonies, terror raids against the peaceful Cetian traders, feeding operations beginning on 3 different worlds. "They're accelerating their operations," Commander Blake observed from her station aboard the destroyer Retribution. "They know we're hunting them, so they're trying to harvest as many populations as possible before we can stop them." Admiral Chen made a decision that would define humanity's role in the galaxy forever. "All ships prepare for continuous operations. We're not going home until every last Devourer is dead. Signal Earth Command. I need every available ship sent to join us immediately." The response from Earth was swift. President Martinez's message was broadcast to every human vessel in space. "The Devourers have shown us what they do to innocent beings. This is not just about protecting Earth anymore. This is about protecting every peaceful species in the galaxy. Join Admiral Chen's fleet. Help him finish what we started." Over the following weeks, the human armada grew. Ships arrived from every corner of human space. Corporate security fleets, colonial defense forces, even civilian volunteers flying armed cargo ships joined the hunt. Captain Williams, now commanding the heavy cruiser Earth Shield, participated in the battle for the Vegan trade worlds. The Devourers had trapped 6 million beings in feeding chambers spread across the system's asteroid mining stations. "This is Earth Shield to all rescue teams," she broadcast as human forces broke into the organic prisons. "We have civilians in critical condition. Medical teams to Landing Bay 3 immediately." The rescue operation took 12 hours. Human medics worked alongside alien doctors to save the victims while Marines hunted down every last Devourer creature hiding in the asteroid bases. But it was the battle at Wolf 359 that showed the galaxy what humanity had become. The Devourers had established a major feeding operation on the world of the Talari, a species of gentle herbivores known for their beautiful music and art. The aliens had been farming the Talari for months, using their children as the primary source of terror. When the human fleet arrived, Admiral Chen's message to the Devourers was broadcast across the system. "You have tortured children. You have fed on innocence itself. There will be no mercy. There will be no surrender. You will all die today." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human forces didn't just attack the Devourer ships, they hunted them. When enemy vessels tried to flee, human pursuit squadrons were already waiting. When the aliens tried to negotiate, human commanders cut the communications. Captain Santos, his mining ship Rockbreaker, now armed with the most advanced weapons Earth could provide, led the ground assault on the Talari homeworld. His teams found the Devourer breeding facilities where they had been creating new victims from captured Talari children. The sight broke something in the human soldiers. These weren't warriors fighting an honorable battle. These were rescuers facing pure evil. "Burn it all," Santos ordered, his voice deadly calm. "Every chamber, every creature, every trace. Leave nothing alive." The systematic destruction that followed became known as the Wolf 359 cleansing. Human forces didn't just defeat the Devourers. They erased every sign of their presence. Buildings were reduced to atoms. Organic ships were incinerated completely. Even the space around the planet was scoured clean. News of the battle spread throughout the galaxy. Other species watched in amazement and growing fear as humanity methodically eliminated the Devourers from system after system. The humans fought with a cold efficiency that was more terrifying than the Devourers' hunger. In the Galactic Council chambers on Alpha Centauri, the debate raged for days. "The humans are going too far," declared the Rigelian ambassador. "They're not just fighting the Devourers, they're exterminating them completely. And what would you have us do?" countered the Zelani representative, choral singer Naya, one of the survivors from Kepler 442. "The Devourers showed no mercy to my people. They kept our children alive only to harvest their terror. The humans saved us when no one else would even try." The Altarian council member, a being of pure energy, flickered with concern. "But the humans are changing. They were peaceful explorers when they joined us. Now they are becoming something else entirely." Ambassador Sarah Chen, Admiral Chen's sister and Earth's representative to the council, stood to address the chamber. "You want to know what we're becoming? We're becoming what this galaxy needs. For thousands of years, the Devourers have consumed innocent civilizations, while the rest of you debated proper procedures and followed diplomatic protocols. How many worlds died while you held committee meetings?" The chamber fell silent. "The humans didn't choose to become warriors," she continued. "We were explorers, scientists, artists, but when we found beings who fed on the suffering of children, we became something else. We became their end." The final battle came at the Devourer home system, a place they called the Feeding Grounds. Here, in the darkness between stars, they had built their ultimate horror, a collection of artificial worlds where the captured essence of 1,000 species was stored and consumed. Admiral Chen's fleet, now grown to over 400 ships from dozens of human worlds and colonies, approached the system with grim determination. This was where it would end. "All ships," Chen broadcast, "we are about to face the source of the greatest evil the galaxy has ever known. Some of us may not survive this battle, but we will finish what we started. For every innocent being they have tortured, for every child they have terrorized, for every peaceful world they have destroyed. Today, we end them forever." The battle lasted 3 days. Human forces fought through layers of organic defense platforms and living weapons. They faced creatures bred from the nightmares of 100 species. But they never stopped, never retreated, never showed mercy. When it was over, the feeding grounds were gone. The devourer species was extinct. Every trace of their civilization had been wiped from existence. Admiral Chen stood on his bridge, looking at the empty space where the enemy homeworld had been. Around him, his officers worked quietly at their stations. The war was over. The monsters were dead. "Admiral," Commander Jackson said softly, "we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. The Council wants to know our intentions now that the threat is eliminated." Chen was quiet for a long moment. He thought about the Zilani children they had rescued, the Talari artists who would live to create beauty again, the countless innocent beings who would never know the terror of the Devourer's feeding chambers. "Tell them," he said finally, "that Earth remembers who helped when innocents were dying. And we remember who stood by and did nothing. The galaxy is safe now, but it stays safe only as long as there are those willing to fight monsters." 6 months later, the Galactic Council formally recognized humanity as the primary peacekeeping force for the Outer Rim territories. The vote wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the only way to stop monsters was to unleash something more dangerous. Captain Vasquez, now Admiral Vasquez commanding the Outer Rim fleet, addressed her crews from her flagship, the UES Guardian. "We didn't ask for this responsibility," she told them, "but we have it now. There are predators in the darkness between stars, beings that see other species as prey. When they threaten the innocent, we remind them why Earth is called a death world." Her words echoed across human space and beyond. The galaxy's peaceful species slept more soundly knowing that somewhere in the darkness, human ships patrolled the void, and in that darkness, things that had once fed on fear now felt a different emotion entirely. They felt afraid of the species from the small blue world that had shown the galaxy what happened when monsters threatened the innocent. The Sats. Humans had become the galaxy's guardians not through conquest, but through a simple promise. We are not the monsters. But when monsters come for you, we become something far worse. We become their end.